Okay, thank you everybody for joining. I'm gonna give a couple more minutes for a couple last people to join, and then we'll get started with a little overview of FileCloud. We're going to be starting today with some file sharing. Right now on the screen, you can see our login portal for the user interface. We'll go over the admin interface a little bit as well, and then through the clients, the local clients as well. That will allow you to work locally on the sync client if you're offline, or you can also work off our local drive client. Perfect. So let's get started with the overview of FileCloud. The first thing you guys will see here is our FileCloud login page for the user. So here you can tell this by the core part piece right here. And a lot of this can be customized from the logo, the background image, the favicon up here. So you can really get the feel that you're using your own software and platform. And so we tried to make the user interface as easy to use as possible. So we'll start over here. You can see any recent activities of any files that you're working on or are possibly shared with you. So here you can see my colleague Jack was working on a file, and here mostly myself and I are working on a lot of these other ones if you scroll down the list. You can also see any recent files down here that I've been working on, as well as shortcuts. So if you're consistently working on a project, then you can essentially add this shortcut on here and make sure that you can just access the project as soon as you sign in. Then the 4 folders you see up here are the main folders. These can be configured to not allow users to access them. So it can be all controlled by the admin portal inside of what can be seen here or not. But to go over all these, you can see my files, which is each user's personal storage, team folders. You can essentially set this up so different teams within the organization can see only specific folders and files. And we'll go over on the admin side a little bit more. Shared with me is pretty obvious. It's any files that have been shared with you. So obviously one of the most important things we wanted to go over today was sharing files. So here on the user side, you can easily select a folder or a file. You hit the manage share option here. And then from here, you have a couple different options. You can either do this allow everyone and essentially create a public share. You can essentially copy and paste this URL if you would like. You can copy it here, or you can even email it directly to someone if you would like with the link attached. And then you can even have the option to set an expiration date, a password if you would like to as well, and even be notified with any changes. And then right here, you can see that I can control what the user can then do once they do have this link here. So right now it's set at view download. You can always go to view only, upload only if you're trying to retrieve data. You have full control over what they can do with the data or the folder when they receive it. And then how it will essentially look is if we open in a new tab here, it will track their IP address on our audit log that we have on the admin portal. And here you can see now they can download or they can view. Those are the 2 options that we set to view and download. So you have control. This creates a public share, essentially allows you to share it with anyone for free. They don't need to have an account. You just need to share this link with them. So very easy and simple way to share a file or folders. And then let's say you want to share it more so internally within your own organization. You can go down here to allow select users and groups. And if you guys have Active Directory, you can actually integrate Active Directory into this. And here you can actually type in the name. So here, let's say, for example, my colleague Will, I can type in his name. And then here you can see he's in our system. I can pull him up. I can send him this email saying, marketing folder has been shared with you. Please sign in. But the email does not need to be sent for it to work. So here you can see Whale now has view, download. He can now upload, share, and sync as well. So you as the person who's sharing, the colleague, you can control the entire share. So you can disallow them from syncing. You can really get rid of their permissions as well. So all they can then do is view. So you have full control over this share. You can add multiple users, and you can even add groups in that as well. So if I just want to share this with my whole accounting team, I can just select that, and then I can again control the options that they have. So here right now, they could just view, download, and upload. So that's sharing internally with colleagues or maybe with an entire group in your organization, maybe everybody in the organization. But another possibility from here is a lot of our clients, we work with banks, governments, many organizations around the world. They work with a lot of clients and partners of their own. And so what we actually allow is Whale here is a full access user. This is a paid license. But when I typed in Whale here, you guys saw another option. These are our limited users. So these three are our test accounts that we created. These are free accounts. You can create as many of these as you want. And the purpose of these are for clients, partners, or just more securely sharing files with someone. So instead of sharing this URL as a public share, if that's not secure enough, you can create as many of these free accounts for your client, partner, or whomever you're trying to share files with or folders. And then essentially all they're able to do is view, download, and upload. That's the max permissions. They won't be able to share with someone. They won't be able to sync with anyone else as well. That's why the name is limited user, because it's a very limited account for them, but it's also why it's a free account and you can have as many as you wish. And so you can limit it as well. So if you only want them to retrieve data, you can do view, download, or you can maybe just do upload as well. So that's all they can do. And so it's completely up to you what permissions you want set on these folders. And that's setting them on here on this specific marketing folder. And if there's any questions throughout this, let me know. I'd be happy to help with any questions throughout this demo or overview of FileCloud. Perfect. So that's adding users and just making a share of a regular folder. You can do the same. Let me go back. You can do the same exact thing with a normal file too. So here, this getting started, again, you just hit the manage share option. And then when you select that, you can see it's the same interface. So you can again do allow everyone as a public share, or you can do guests and groups again. So all the sharing is synchronized throughout FileCloud, so you don't have to learn different things. As you saw here as well, when selecting a file, you have a couple options. We do integrate with Office 365. So you can open this, work directly, or collaborate with other colleagues on this file right here. You can download. We even have what's called versioning. So you can even go back to previous versions. If possibly I made a mistake here, I could just select this versioning option and I could go through these different versions. So if I want to go back to this version from November 22nd, I could easily then do that. And then maybe prevent someone else from making a mistake on your file when you shared it with them. You can also even lock the files. So this way, if I don't want anybody that I just shared it with to work on it, I select the lock option. I can prevent them even from downloading, although I gave them access to. And then let's say I work on this until next Sunday, this project's due. So then I could just lock the file. And here you can now see this little lock symbol. That's a little background of sharing different files and folders, versioning and locks as well. To give a little bit more of a background, you can even see on the right hand side details. So from anything from sharing who you've shared it with. So we just shared it with one user. You can see the different versions here as we just saw, and you can even add comments in as well. The activity, again, as I showed in the beginning, you can see that on a file or folder by folder basis and see all the way down who's been accessing it, when was it created, who locked it. For example, I just locked it. And then you can even tag documents as well. So one of the shipping companies we recently worked with, they essentially were looking to tag their documents with all the shipping numbers. And so essentially here you can see that we created these two tags. You have a blank canvas with metadata is what we call it here. And you can essentially create any kind of tag that you would like. So the two examples we have here are needs review. And we just wrote, yes, it needs review, and no, it's not sensitive. So this way, when the user comes here, they can see on the right-hand side, it has a metadata tag. They can go over here and check what tags are attached. So whether that's invoice paid, a shipping number, a bank account number, or whatever tag that you would like to add on here, you can easily do that. Perfect. So continuing on, I was going to go to the local clients next. If there's any questions, let me know. You're free to reach out and ask. I'd be happy to answer anybody's questions along the way. Okay, I just had a question about the limited users we discussed earlier. Can you add limited users in? Yes, that's actually a good question. So we were just sharing, let's say this document here that we're on. We saw Whale here as a full access user. And we saw when we typed in earlier Whale's name, we could also add these free accounts that were already created here. These three here are free accounts, limited users, and we're able to add these in. But another possibility that I didn't go over was, let's say, for example, Whale's not in the system. Let's say, for example, my colleague Kathy, she's obviously not in our system here and no match is found. But if I hit the enter on my keyboard, I can actually invite her. So for example, if you have a client or partner you're quickly trying to share it with them in a secure manner, you can then just create an account for them. It will send them email, they can sign up, access their account, and then here Kathy would now be able to see this getting started PowerPoint after signing in. And here you can now see Kathy's also added on. And so again, she would only be able to view download. She would not be able to share with others since it's a free account. I hope this answers the question. Let me know if that does. If it does, then we'll continue on to the sync and drive application that we have locally. So just to let you guys know, all the features we're going over right now so far are all part of our standard features as well, whether you go on-premise or online as well. We have both options. So if you would like to have it fully hosted on your own local servers or maybe in your own Azure server, you can do that. Or if you would like to host it with us in the cloud through AWS, we can do that as well. So it's completely up to you. All these features that you've seen so far, and I believe most of them that you'll see the rest of this demo, are all part of our standard features. And you can always find the features list on our website as well. But I believe that answered your question. Let me go over to the sync and drive application now. So the sync application is for offline use. So if users ever are on a trip to visit maybe a client or just a business trip or vacation, they can use the sync application here. This is our sync folder. And they can sync these files that you guys saw here in My Files or any of the other files that have access to an allowance to sync. They can then sync down locally. If you're sharing team folders, the admin can't control if you can sync them down or not, so that's completely in control by the admin. But here you can see this, let me pull up the sync settings here. You can actually control the syncing as well. So you can do anything from specific folders. You can do a backup, you can sync network folders as well. You have full control over that, even the bandwidth and how often it syncs as well. And here you can see the blue check marks. These are all been synced down. This allows me, if I go offline right now, I could work on these. And then as soon as I connect back to the internet, it would sync back into FileCloud. So that's where for working offline, maybe for large files. But let's say continue if you don't want to work and have everything consistently synced up and down. Another possibility is our drive application. This allows you, the FileCloud drive, as you can see here, is mounted through the internet and allows you to work locally. So one of the banks we recently worked with essentially didn't want any of their client or users to log into the web portal. So they're strictly using the drive application. This allows them to work directly from here on any of the folders because nothing's actually downloaded or synced. It will be archived when open, but you can work directly from here, and anytime you save it, it's going to save it right back into FileCloud, wherever it's being hosted at. And then if you even right click, let's say, for example, this getting started PowerPoint again, you can even view properties like metadata again. And you can even share, as you can just see. I can hit advanced and you'll see the exact same share options you guys saw on the web interface. So here you can see Kathy, who I just added in on the web interface, and you can see Whale. I can again add guests or groups, or I can again do the public share, sharing just the URL and controlling what they can do. So this allows you to really work directly from your local file explorer if you would like to. Are there any questions on the local drive and sync application so far before we move over to the admin portal? I see we have quite a few people. Let me know if there's any other questions. I'd be happy to help. Give it a couple seconds here. Okay. So we have a question about the drive, the metadata. So yes, so you can see, as I was just mentioning, the metadata if you hit FileCloud properties. you can actually see the metadata on here directly. So this way, if you would like to, here you can see the details again. And then here, if you right click, you can see and remove metadata if you would like. You can see that it's sensitive or it's not sensitive and it needs review still. So you can see that directly from your local client as well. Hope that answers the question. Is there any other questions before we move on to the admin portal? While I wait, I'll wait for any questions. While I wait for that, one last thing I forgot to show on the user side is we do index everything in FileCloud. So essentially, if you're looking to search for something, you have millions or thousands of files, you can just type it in. And here you can see it's not only just looking for the name of the file or folder, but it's going within these files to look for the word, for example, test. Because we index everything, it allows us to be GDPR compliant as well. It allows us for pattern search recognition and different things in that nature. Data leak protection, which we'll be going over in a little bit as well. And because we are a worldwide company, we do have different languages as well, so you can easily change the language down here. These are the language we have in place right now. If a language is missing or you would like to proceed with us and your language is not listed here, you can always reach out to us, let us know, and we'd be happy to assist any way we can with that. So continuing on now to the admin portal. One of the next things I wanted to go over was data leak protection. This is retention with data governance. Those are the next two big things. I'll go over here on the admin portal, a couple other security features that are very big as well. Security is one of our top priorities, working with a lot of banks and governments around the world. That's why we have seamless integration with things like Active Directory, LDAP, SSO, and other things. So it's very easy to onboard with us. And we'll go over a couple of those things like that today. So the first thing I'm going to go over is the data leak protection. So if we go down here on the left-hand side, you'll see the Smart DLP. And so these is very helpful for many reasons. So for example, one of the banks, it works with smart classifications. And so for example, one of the banks we work with, they didn't want any of their credit cards, their Visa credit cards, to be downloaded even if the person has permission to have them downloaded. And so since everything is indexed, this allows us to do this. So we have this confidential for Visa, a specific string of for the Visa card. And then here you can see in the actual data leak protection, it denies download of any of this specific strings or specific string of data. So this is exactly the Visa card that we're looking for. So if it's a specific set of digits, you could do, for example, a Visa card, anything that follows a 9-digit sequence, 333, or any kind of sequence that you would like. You can also do this, for example, so this is just a deny. If you don't want users to log in from certain IP addresses, you can do that kind of data leak protection. If you don't want someone to download or share with others in certain regions, or for specific data you don't want them to share, you can use that as well. There's many different ways you can use data leak protection with our classifications through indexing. Continuing on, we have our governance. So this is just our dashboard of everything, but diving a little bit more deeply, we also have our retention policies. So this can also be very helpful for any trash retention or legal holds, archival, or many other things. So if we hit add policy up here in the right corner, you can see what I just mentioned. You can either do a retention, archival, legal hold, admin hold, or a trash retention. You can select any of these and name it whatever you would like. So if this is just a test, for example, we can name any description. You can hide the policy from users so they don't even know that the retention policy is in place. You can be alerted if they try to delete it. And then you can essentially add it to a specific folder or file, or my preferred method is to actually use the metadata. So for example, the sensitive one we showed earlier, and then saying, yes, anything that's sensitive, I would just add that as a tag. And then here, down here, I could have the actions of it. So I could have it for a specific date. So if I want it for 90 days from today, then I could do that. I could do it for Friday, or I could do it forever. And then afterwards, you can say nothing happens or it's permanently deleted, for example. So you can set these for really any of these, depending on what you select. It will have a couple of different options here at the bottom. So here you can see the archival path. You can see different things, the trash retention, again, it permanently delete or no action. So let's continue on. One of the other big security features are audit log. So this allows you to track everything that's going on. I know it's something we were going to go over today. So you can see everything that's going on here. So you can see I was just working on the retention policies. I logged into my account earlier through the sync client. So you can essentially check anything from upload, download, data leak protection. You can even check the web browser, the Outlook plugin, the iOS. So we have iOS and Android applications, or just workflows. You can check almost anything. We track everything on the audit log. And you can do this through reports in more detail even as well. So here you can check who's logging in, when they're logging in, who's sharing, who's bandwidth usage, who's deleting files. You can almost check everything on here. Again, data leak for statistics or statistics for data leak, for file movement as well, who's created a new account. You can see almost everything that's going on. You can have these automated so reports are consistently run as well. Continuing on, a couple last things. We were also going to discuss managing devices. So if we go here, you can see under devices, you can actually control all the devices as well. So the sync and drive application, as well as the Android and iOS applications, you can easily then go here. You can see, for example, I was just accessing the sync. Here, Whale was earlier on his Android application. So for example, if Whale lost his phone, I could actually see his IP address, last access and everything, and I could actually block him. So this way, this phone right here, you could remote wipe the data. So this way, if someone does, for example, get their hands on his phone, the data on the application would actually be remote wiped. So this way they wouldn't be able to access the data. He wouldn't have to worry about that. We don't delete it in general. It will still be in the systems, just off this application, it will be deleted. And so you can do that for any of these, the drive or sync application, as well as the mobile applications. Perfect. Coming down to the last couple pieces here, I also wanted to show the metadata. I mentioned it's a blank canvas. I just wanted to show that. So if we hit add metadata, you can see it's completely blank. You can name it, have your description. So for example, sensitive, and then here you can have the name again. And here, for example, the sensitive one, you could have text, you could have decimal, you could have a specific date. And then here is essentially how one would look. So for example, if we go to sensitive one we've been playing around with today, you can see sensitive. You can see the attribute down here. It's very simple, just one attribute, and we just get enumeration, yes, no. So very simple to add any kind of meta tag that you would like. And then the last thing here to wrap it up, as I mentioned in the beginning, everything is customizable. So here you can see the general things. You can kind of go through UI features, login, account menu. You can kind of control what's being seen. You can see what logos are everywhere. So you can put all your own company logos on the mobile, the website, the favicon, as I mentioned up here, as well as the background images. You can even do the email templates, so you can really make sure everything looks exactly that your company is using this software and it's their own. News feed is essentially this little news feed here. Almost everything, even the terms of service. There's very few things that you can't customize. It's all included. Perfect. So this kind of wraps up the FileCloud overview. Was there any other questions or things that I can go over? Please send a comment or send over a question. Okay, perfect. So I did mention I'll go over team folders a little bit more earlier. So here, for example, are our team folders. So these are controlled by the admin perspective. This allows you to control what users, when they sign in, see specific documents and folders. So when I sign in, I wouldn't be able to see all these on my user account. I would only see the ones that were shared to me. So for example, let's say the HR department, I believe this one's shared with me, yes. When I sign in, I would be able to view, download, and upload in my account, my local account here, the user one. And I can always give more permissions or less as well, as shown earlier. But a cool part of this as well is, let's say, for example, Whale is our manager here, for example. then we could actually give Whale full permissions, and we could actually go to miscellaneous here as well. And we could even allow him to delete and manage. This way, instead of the admin always having to control the team folder here, since Whale is the manager of HR, he could then manage and delete, take control of the entire folder. I, as the admin, wouldn't have to worry about it anymore. And so it kind of just takes a little plate, less work off your plate. And so you can really share this with anybody you would like. Again, you saw the same sharing permissions. You can even do granular permissions, share the external folder with one person and then the internal folder here. Let's say I want to share Jack with Jack, Kathy with Kathy. Then I can essentially do that. Very easy. You can do the granular permissions and then just share it with different users. I hope that answered your question on team folders. Perfect, perfect. Was there any other questions from anyone in the call here today? We'll give it a couple minutes. If anybody has any questions, just let me know. I'll be happy to answer or go over anything else that you guys have. If not, we'll wrap it up here in the next couple minutes as well. I appreciate everybody for joining today, the FileCloud overview. If there's any way we can help, again, my name is Henry Arnold. I am the account executive here in Europe. So if you have any questions or need help in these regions, the Middle East as well, Africa, if you need any help, please feel free to reach out to me. So far, no other questions. One more about the team folders. So for the team folders, you were asking about permissions, I see. Yes. So we actually do have permissions that you see here. I guess that's maybe what you saw. So what they are essentially is you can see the different permissions allowed. So here you can see Jane here, she can only read. She's not able to write, delete, share, or manage. And you can actually allow these permissions to be inherited or not inherited per folder. So this way, for this folder, she would be able to only read. If it's another one, if I don't inherit, then the other ones underneath it, she would not inherit. So she would be able to have full permissions if shared with her. So those are our permissions. You can do these by groups. You can add users and then make sure they inherit or don't inherit those specific permissions in here. Perfect. Thank you. That was a good question. Was there any other last questions before we wrap this up? Let me see. Anything else? All right, give it a couple more minutes. Let me know if you guys have any other questions. You can also personally reach out to me. I believe maybe I've been in contact with quite a few of you already. So you can always reach out to me via email, or we can set up a personal call as well. All right, it doesn't seem any other questions. I'll give it about 2 more minutes. Leave the call here open. Oh, I had someone. What you recommend? Could you elaborate a little bit more? What recommendations do you mean? Between on-premise, online, or what exactly did you mean by that? I'd be happy to help. Just let me know. Are there any other questions, or could you possibly elaborate more on your question? I'm not sure what, or if you're asking the difference between two things to recommend. Let me share photos. All right, thank you for elaborating. Let me see here. What you're making for team with team. Are you meaning to only limit them through working through the team folders, or through the shared folders? So if you want to control what your users are seeing and have access to, what I would personally recommend is working directly off these team folders here, because as the admin, you're the only one who will be able to control those unless you obviously give the manage permission I mentioned, but then they would just be able to manage that one folder. But I would personally recommend just using the team folders instead of each user sharing through the shared with me interface. So if they always have to go through the shared with me, if you're having to share a ton of files consistently, they won't be able to see the files here. They'll see the name of the user first and then the files, which isn't too problematic, but it just makes it a little bit easier to control all by the admin portal, because then you can assign specific users. You can control the permissions a little bit more and have a little bit more control and sharing with and so that would be just my personal recommendation, because then they don't have to constantly have to go through the shared with me. They can just go through their team folder here and see the specific folders that have been shared with them. And depending on what team or organization or part that they're in here, then they would be able to access. So for example, HR department, I would then be able to, depending on the permissions, I would then be able to view, download, and upload. So here you can see that. So that would be my personal preference. I hope that answered your question. Let me know if not, or if you have any other questions, I'd also be happy to help before we close this webinar. Let me see. No worries at all. No worries. Let me know if you have any other questions. Like I said, I'm happy to help. You can always reach out to me personally as well with any other questions or assistance with any setup or configurations as well. I'd really be happy to help. Let me know if there's any last questions. We'll be wrapping it up here. I just want to make sure everybody gets their questions answered, so this way nothing is left unturned or there's no roadblocks for you as well. All right, so far no other questions. Give it about one more minute here. All right, give one final call then for questions, and then I'll wrap up the webinar, close it out. I again appreciate everybody for joining today. I'm glad we had such a good turnout, and I'm happy to help. Again, if you guys need any assistance, I'll be in touch with a lot of you guys. I recognize you personally, and if you have any questions, you can also reach out to me. Perfect. So I don't see any more questions coming in. I hope everybody has a great day then, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.